Boom! What's up, familia? Dayspring here to discuss Marvel's announcement of a Giant Size X-Men anniversary event that they just dropped about an hour ago. It's funny. I was on a jog and I was like, oh, the Hasbro stream is tomorrow. I want to talk Marvel Legends. Let's go over what we possibly could be seeing at the Marvel Legends Hasbro stream tomorrow. And then Calvin from The Ashes sent me over this article and a post. And I was like, well, we got to discuss this. And familia, this is a warning here. I'm not too happy with this announcement. We don't let the emotions for our fandom sort of eclipse logic and being like, okay, they're doing something new. This is interesting. This, to me, does not sound good. This sounds terrible. And it's going to tie into what my feelings were for Time Slide issue number 1, which we'll get into as we go through this article. I have been approaching this new era of From the Ashes with a very open heart, with a lot of optimism. I think there's a lot of negativity out there in fandom. I don't want to contribute to that. I certainly heard when we were discussing Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of 10, I did not have the best opinion on them. I heard what people were saying. They're like, oh, come on, Dayspring. Doesn't even sound like you're an X-Men fan. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to be too negative about things, but then they drop something like this, and you're like, oh my gosh. And again, I have enjoyed From the Ashes. I think Jed MacKay is an excellent writer. We love Dazzler. Jason Lowe has been on the podcast several times. We've done book club with him. Dazzler is great. I'm enjoying the Phoenix series. I have been coming to everything with an open heart. However, oh, and X-Manhunt. We did a breakdown of the trailer, and I said it looked good. If they're going to be exploring Xavier's history, this is going to be more of a character study on Xavier. I'm all in for it. But then we get this new Giant Size X-Men anniversary event rewrites Mutant Milestones. Now listen. Grandpa Dayspring has been around for a very long time. I have been a reader for the X-Men for over 3 decades at this point, and every time somebody's going to get rewritten, it happens. Retcons happen. Right? If you're a comic book fan, retcons are part of the job description of being a fan. Retcons happen all the time. Certainly Age of Apocalypse, for example, has been already retcon with its 10th year anniversary stories, right? Completely changed the ending. And Age of Apocalypse went from the 616 universe being reskinned as the Age of Apocalypse to its own separate universe. So again, I think these retcons don't really spoil the original story, but it does take away from the gravity of the stories. And I got to tell you, this does not look good to me. But why don't we dive into this article? I'm on Marvel.com. They just released the article an hour ago. You can see it. It's new Giant Size X-Men anniversary event rewrites Mutant Milestones. Celebrating the 50th anniversary of the groundbreaking Giant Size X-Men Issue 1, Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, Adam Kubert, and more reshape mutant history across 5 one-shots starting this May. Oh, my nerves are shot with here. For 50 years, Giant Size X-Men number 1 has stood as one of the most important moments in Marvel history. It's true. It's true. That's where we got Storm, where we got Banshee joining the team, where we got Wolverine. It is a milestone. Giant Size X-Men is very important. You're not wrong. Reshaping the X-Men forever. Now, Marvel celebrates this milestone with an all-new 5-part event spanning the greatest eras of mutant kind. Now, Marvel celebrates this milestone with an all-new 5-part event spanning the greatest eras of mutant kind. Oh. From the emergence of Krakoa in Giant Size X-Men number 1 to Days of Future Past, Age of Apocalypse, House of M, and the Dark Phoenix saga. Wait, what? From the emergence of Krakoa in Giant Size X-Men issue 1. Yes, this is true. Krakoa did debut. I got that. we've talked about this before on the podcast. Sometimes these marketing press releases aren't always right. So when I saw, wait, Krakoan was House of X. The Krakoan era started off with House of X issue 1. No, Krakoa did make its debut in Giant Size X-Men 1. That's 100% true. Whew. History has shaped and shattered the X-Men time and time again. But what if those moments held deeper secrets? What if the past could be rewritten? Okay. Acclaimed ex-scribes Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing joined forces with superstar artists, including legendary ex-artist Adam Kubert, for an epic saga that takes fans on a mind-bending journey through the X-Men's greatest events, revealing mysteries long buried and secrets that will define the future of Marvel's mutants. Each of the 5 one-shots also features a Revelations backup story by X-Men creators past and present that uncover hidden moments that will alter the X-Men's future. Fans can experience a special prelude to the event by picking up free Comic Book Day 2025 Fantastic Four Giant Size X-Men number 1 on May 3rd. Okay. So we kind of already got like a glimpse of this in Time Slide issue 1, where they go back into the past and they're fighting Dark Phoenix, and they being Cable and Bishop. And here's a little thing about this that really upset me about this issue. Kamala was there, of course, and that's part of the story, but it had them fighting Jean as Dark Phoenix in Westchester when actually they would be in upstate New York, to where Jean grew up in. So they already got it wrong. Now, you can argue that Kamala being there sort of altered where the fight would happen. Fine, whatever. I'll wait till I read the final issue. But it is such a big mistake, in my opinion, if this was not purposely done. Again, if you're going to be going back in time and you're going to be retweaking these stories, retconning, putting in little Easter eggs that no one has ever noticed before, but now we're going to see them and it's going to alter history, fine, that is okay. That is 100% okay. However, be airtight with your details. That's all I'm saying. And so that already has me nervous. I don't want them to touch Age of Apocalypse or House of M. I don't. The Dark Phoenix saga has been revisited so many times, so many different perspectives, right? And especially we got Teen Jean in that one shot where she meets up with the Phoenix of that era. She's about to warn her about the Dark Phoenix saga, but then the Watcher comes and she's like, oh no. And then she's sent back to her, well, to the present, but it's her future because she's from the past, if that makes sense. So them sort of touching those things, whatever, what are you going to do? But Age of Apocalypse, my gosh, they've revisited Age of Apocalypse so much. I don't need them to continue revisiting it. Age of Apocalypse was a perfect crossover when it happened. I don't need them to continue peeling back layers with it. Just let it exist. Let the Age of Apocalypse exist on its own. Stop selling the stories. I have to tell you, my stomach is sinking reading this. Like, don't do something that's going to ruin these precious stories. Tom Brevoort over the weekend took to his Substack and was talking about how, you know, the worst thing for sales is when people don't talk about your comics, and that even angry fans are still engaging with content and the book, so that's a good thing. I think that's an out of date perspective. That may have been true in the 90s and early aughts. I mean, again, we were always going to be disgruntled. You're always going to have angry fans out there who will always have something to say. I 100% agree with that, and I think that if this was 1995, I would agree wholeheartedly with him. But I think in today's world where people will just go on YouTube, they'll be like, okay, I don't think it's worth checking out. You got to get your fans excited for the material. First and foremost, you need the diehard fans, in this case, the diehard X-Men fans, to be like, what? This looks incredible. Again, sort of how we were talking about X-Manhunt. I was like, you know what? This looks fun. I mean, we're going to be seeing the Shi'ar, Xavier's on the run, Storm and Cyclops are fighting. Why are they fighting? Who knows? But maybe there's a good story here. This, I'm like, do not retcon. I mean, the Dark Phoenix saga, I wish Marvel would let go of the Dark Phoenix saga. It always seems that when Jean has a Phoenix in the books, the Dark Phoenix saga always rears its ugly head, or the events of Dark Phoenix. It has been almost 50 years since the Dark Phoenix saga. I am done exploring that notion of Jean as Dark Phoenix. Can we just move past it? A major time-spanning event does not need to include the Dark Phoenix saga. House of M. I've said this before. I don't. As House of M was being published back in the summer of '05, a lot of us did not like it. It was not well paced. The writing was very stiff. However, it has aged nicely within the Marvel canon. People want to see House of M adapted in the MCU. A large part of this is because MCU Scarlet Witch, as portrayed by Elizabeth Olsen, has gained a lot of fans, a lot of passionate fans, and we want to see House of M executed. Take elements of the story, update it, make it an MCU saga. A lot of people want to see that. Why even tinker with it? House of M right now, just let it be. Let it be. And of course, Age of Apocalypse and House of M were touched upon in Secret Wars. They had their own books. So you just don't need to go. You just don't need to go in there. And again, I think Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing are good writers. I'm enjoying NYX. However, I don't know if I trust them enough to take this leap right now in this story. I'm not as excited for it. I'm just really worried. And I've been trying my best to be positive and reinforce that, like, hey, we want the X-Men to survive as an IP. We need X-Men comic books to publish, and we need them to sell. That's the reality of the world we live in. I don't want the X-Men to burn down and go away in comics, but I think Tom Brevoort is doing his best at chasing off some fans, or at least making things look incredibly unappealing. I don't like this. I'm sorry for me. I'm so sorry for being negative. I certainly want to apologize for being negative here. All right. The past isn't set in stone. The future is up for grabs, and X-Men history will never be the same. I mean, listen, I may be reacting negatively to this, but there's also another part of me that's like, okay, been there, done that. 10 years from now, the story probably won't even matter. Sins of Sinister. No one cares about Sins of Sinister. It had no major impact into where the books are today. I'm just saying, like, stop trying to overhype things. And by the way, we just got the trailer for X-Manhunt, and now we already have this major crossover. Anyways. Okay. Ever since she discovered she was a mutant, Kamala Khan has been balancing her previous life as Ms. Marvel with her role as a leader in the new community, but her conflicted identity has come at a deep personal cost. Now pulled into the distant past by an unhinged villain with deep ties to mutant history. Trevor Fitzroy, maybe? I hope. Miss Marvel will witness the iconic birth of the uncanny X-Men and their first encounter with Krakoa from an all-new, all-different perspective. Oh. But when history begins to change, can either Kamala Khan or the X-Men themselves survive the experience? Plus, Revelation stories by Al Ewing and Sarah Pichelli. Listen, Sarah Pichelli, I always get it wrong. Wonderful writer, wonderful artist. I loved her, especially when Bendis was writing Guardians of the Galaxy back in like 2013, and she did the art. Oh, she did Angela. Perfect artist. I love her very much. We've spoken with her on DMs. I've tried to get her on the podcast. I love her art so much. That introduces the X-Men that never was. Okay. So here's my thing. I love Miss Marvel. I think Kamala was a wonderful, revolutionary character. I've said this before on the podcast. She was, if you looked at Modern Family, which 10 years ago, Modern Family was like the number one. It was like a ratings juggernaut, the number one television show that everyone was watching. In the background of Alex Stumpy's dorm room in college, there was a poster of Miss Marvel. That is how popular the character was. When she was cast in the MCU, I was really excited. I love her series on Disney Plus. I know that's so contentious with a lot of people, but it is a well-written series. If you loved Miss Marvel Volume 1, you're going to love that. Iman Vellani is a perfect casting choice for Miss Marvel. I think they dropped the ball with Miss Marvel the second they killed her off in Spider-Man and then resurrected her as a mutant. She works so well for me as leader of the champions, as sort of that next generation Avengers, right? The young Avengers, the champions, and Miss Marvel leading them. That is where the character truly shines. I love her so much like that. They've since made her a mutant. They've brought in her into the X franchise, and they keep relaunching her book over and over again. We got like two Miss Marvel titles in the course of like a year and a half. And now we have NYX. And they just keep trying to make this character stick in the X books, and it's just not working. She is a fantastic character. For me, she works as a future leader of the Avengers, right? That is perfect. She's an Avengers character. Now, I always said this, if at the end of the Miss Marvel series, instead of saying that she was a mutant, if they would have just said that there was something in her that made her inhuman, plus having Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness, you would have revived the Inhumans IP. The counter argument I always get to this is well, she was originally intended to be a mutant, but now they had to switch courses and they made her an Inhuman because of the film rights at the time. It happens. A lot of things that creators intend on the back end just don't make it to the final print and publication. My larger conversation with Miss Marvel is that she's such a good character that she deserves to have people who want to write her and tell compelling stories, not make her a byproduct of whatever film rights are available. That's ludicrous to me. Ludicrous to me. And also, stop trying to shoehorn her into all of the X-Men stories. I don't need it. I don't need her to be there. We have so many great, compelling X-Men that have been introduced over the years that are just dying to get into stories like this. Pixie is one of the first ones that comes to my mind, right? Let's get Pixie time traveling and seeing all of the X-Men. Jubilee, Pixie, another one you could do. You could do Kitty Pryde. You could do Laura Kinney, whether it's X-23 or Wolverine version. You could do Armor. There's so many other characters that are out there that have long roots in X-Men history that can benefit from seeing the X-Men at their inception. Like, imagine Jubilee seeing the Wolverine when he first joined the team, and just imagine that emotional connection, that emotional beat in the story. I'm sorry, Miss Marvel just doesn't have those ties. It would work perfectly for an Avengers story, 100% for an Avengers story. Anyways, that's my rant on that. Oh, that's a nice cover. Oh, that's a nice cover. Look at that really nice cover here. Oh, it is. I mean, listen, you can't. That Kubert knows how to draw. That's a really great cover. Okay, so let's finish this article. Yeah, there's Miss Marvel, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Thunderbird, Wolverine, and of course our goddess Storm in the O5 there. Homage to Giant Size X-Men #1. Okay. Now we have a quote from Lansing and Kelly. No hype. Every issue of Giant Size is here to blow your mind and break your heart. You're already breaking my heart, you can believe that. Mutantkind is the grandest, most sprawling canvas in the Marvel canon. Moreover, it's the one the hive mind has been arguing and geeking out about since we were teenagers at our local comic shop. Good. I'm glad. Again, you know what? There's something that I have to tell you when I read NYX. There is love there. Now, alongside the absolute legend Adam Kubert and three more of the best artists in the industry, we're posed to completely wreck and reassemble the history of the X. With our favorite hero, Kamala Khan, front and center. It's an honor, a joy, and a huge responsibility. What comes next will be marvelous. Free Comic Book Day, Giant Size X-Men #1 is just a taste. What comes next will be marvelous. You should not tell. Listen, at this point, you would think that Marvel knows. Don't tell your audience that you're going to wreck and reassemble the history of X-Men. I don't know, Familia. This doesn't sound good to me. I'm open to being wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this turns out to be the best crossover since Age of Apocalypse and that every issue ships a million. Right? We've seen them do this strategy before with giant size X-Men. They did it during the Krakoan age with Storm, right? Storm was infected by some kind of machine virus, and we got various different one-shots of giant size X-Men that dealt with the characters individually, but a larger story was there. It was a fine format, but ultimately, again, not many people talked about it. By the way, little sidebar with that story. If you remember that giant size story where Storm's body is infected with some kind of machine virus, she does not want to be resurrected. And Emma's like, what is the big deal? Just resurrect yourself in a new body, right? We've cured death. Why won't you resurrect yourself? And the story that never made it to press was that Storm was pregnant. Storm was pregnant, and that's why she didn't want to resurrect herself. That would have framed the entire story for us. I guess Storm being pregnant was too much of an editorial leap, and that's why they didn't go through with it, and that's fine. But my goodness, would that have just made that series mean something? All right, let's look at these preview pages. The art's beautiful. Look at that right there. All right, so it's going to be Giant Size X-Men #1, Giant Size X-Men Dark Phoenix Saga, Giant Size Age of Apocalypse #1, Giant Size House of M, and Giant Size X-Men #2. I mean, are you excited? Tell me in the comments below. Is this like a Days of Future Past scenario here? Right, so here's a shadowy figure. Demons all around. Ooh, is it Madeline Pryor? Could it be Maddie? Maybe Magic? Who knows? Standing in front of the firing squad. Wahahaha, don't worry. I don't know. I'm not wild about this. I'm sorry, Familia. That's sort of my vibe here. Yeah, I'm curious to see who's going to be standing there. Ooh, these eyes right here. That looks like a Dark Phoenix or Madeline Pryor, if you ask me. Anyways, Familia, my apologies for the negativity. I really do want to be as optimistic and happy as possible. I want these X books to survive. I want them to thrive. But something like this, I'm not approaching happy. I'm approaching very guarded. We'll tune in. We'll read it. Again, one of the things that I have learned as an X-Men fan over the years is don't react, see how the stories sort of play out. But it seems that like if we're not vocal about things get worse and worse, right? And I think it was such a big mistake to pivot out of Krakoa. If you were going to pivot out of Krakoa, then you should have just gone hard back into the 90s. Right, we really should have done that, and I believe Brevoort said that in his Substack where he was here. Like, well, you know, a lot of people were worried we were going to go back to the mansion, but it's our job to be front and center and telling these new groundbreaking stories. Which, by the way, agree with. Tell new groundbreaking stories, but it just feels that like it's misstep after misstep, and the comics are getting less and less attention. And there are fewer readers out there. I mean, when House of X, Powers of 10, the original Jonathan Hickman event kicked off, my God, it felt like everyone was reading it. People I didn't even know read comic books were like, oh, I heard about the House of X. Should I pick it up? People were DMing me when we had just started Power of X-Men, like, oh, which Krakoan era books should I read? Now, a handful of people are still reading the books. It's really upsetting. This is no bueno. I'm sorry, Familia. Anyways, leave your feels in the comments below. It's okay if you like this. Please tell us why you like it. Please tell us why you're excited for it. And I'll try to get hyped for this. But as of right now, this announcement is not making me feel good. I'm a little disappointed in it. Let me know your feels in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. Or some of you are like, I'm hitting that unsubscribe button. I'm sorry. Again, I'm apologizing. I don't want to be negative. But leave your feels, hit that subscribe button. You can slide into our DMs at Power of X-Men. We love hearing from people. Again, if you're excited for this, I want you to be excited. Get me excited. Get a lot of us excited. All right, Familia, we'll see you later.